Time now for the second installment of our new series, Defending the First, where we expose the enemies of the First Amendment, free expression, and free thought. Radio talk show host and Daily Wire editor-in-chief Ben Shapiro has emerged as one of the top defenders of free speech, particularly on campus. In a series of speeches over the last few years, Shapiro has debunked sacred cows like safe spaces, microaggressions, and the quest for, well, multiculturalism and diversity, and not without risks to his own personal safety.
And there it is, gang. Guess what? You know what? They're not going to stop us.
Hey, 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 keep them up.
If I attempt to enter that hall right there and sit down just to listen to somebody speak, or if I attempt to ask a question or to engage in free speech, you will have me arrested.
At this point, yes, sir.
The tolerant ones. Joining us now, Ben Shapiro himself, who we thought of immediately when we launched this series. Ben, you know, you don't look too threatening. You're kind of a guy with some interesting ideas and thought-provoking conversations, and you freak them all out. You got the headgear on, you got the riot police out. I mean, this is actually, it is funny because it's so pathetic, but it's also very dangerous because you do have the guts to go on college campuses, but there are a lot of conservatives I know who are invited to speak. You know what they say? I have better things to do with my time. And in a way, you can't blame them, but that is itself chilling free speech.
No question. The heckler's veto that so many universities are now using to shut down free speech on college campuses by saying the left is going to get violent is pretty astonishing. And listen, I don't blame conservatives who don't want to take their life in their hands by going on some of these campuses. Now, I don't want to pretend this is happening at every campus, but it is happening to a lot of conservatives. I mean, I'm talking about not even just conservatives. I'm talking about people who range from Jordan Peterson to Jason Riley to Heather McDonald to Charles Murray. You know, there's a wide variety of conservatives who are being really rioted against, in some cases on campus, and the administration has, in some cases, really not done enough to prevent that from happening. And when they do attempt to stop the riots from happening, the way they typically do it is by bringing a lot of cops onto campus and then by suggesting that we have to restrict the number of people who can actually attend the lectures. So they actually end up restricting free speech even when they're attempting to protect it in some cases.
Yeah, so again, irony, the free speech movement, all started at Berkeley, and Berkeley is at center, ground zero of the anti-free speech movement in the United States today. In the last couple of days, an interesting development, Ben, that fits with our series at Penn State. The Penn State Student Power Network, along with other students and community members, gathered outside Old Main on Monday to present a list of demands to President Barron. I love it when they have a list of demands. These demands included denouncing and defunding hate groups on campus. And I think to myself, oh my God, are the Nazis on campus? I mean, who's on campus? The U.S. Communist Party? No, it's groups with anti-immigrant rhetoric. I guess that's someone who's in favor of enforcing the border. I mean, what does that mean?
I mean, everything has been deemed hate speech on campus, up to and including there was a point during the election cycle when people were barred on certain campuses from writing President Trump's name when he was a candidate because this made people feel bad that some people actually supported Trump as a candidate. So I can only imagine that anti-immigrant rhetoric would be things like let's enforce our border or let's deport some illegal immigrants. But that's not a shock. Again, Penn State is one of the campuses that I visited, and there was a near riot when I was at Penn State. So I'm sure that some of the people who were protesting against the conservatives on campus, and it was some conservative groups who they were protesting, were some of the same people who a couple of years ago nearly tried to break through the doors where I was speaking to disrupt the lecture that I was giving. What's amazing about all of this is that it is perfectly easy to have a nice event where people come and listen to me or listen to any of the other people I mentioned, and all of us are willing to have Q&As, all of us are willing to have discussions. We had one last night over at Pepperdine where a lot of the student groups who are on the left, I'm talking about the same sort of minority student groups you're hearing about at Penn State, decided that instead of boycotting, they would show up and ask questions. And we had a perfectly nice conversation. But unfortunately, there is a part of the left, as distinguished from, I think, liberals at large, there's a big part of the left, and it's growing, that says that it is incumbent to protect the campus from ideas that are dissenting, and everyone who dissents must be thrown off.
Well, and the reason that they want to stifle speech is because your speech actually grows conservatism. It spreads the ideology and it draws people in. They have no ideas. They're out of ideas. They're out of solutions. They're into demonization. And, you know, you go to college campuses. You could be going to corporations and speaking, but you go to college campuses. And I think the groups that are trying to make your life miserable or going after Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA, go through the list of who's behind this effort to really tamp down on free speech. We know some of the big funded groups by George Soros, but go through that briefly for us.
I mean, there's certainly a lot of student groups that coordinate. I would say that a lot of the groups that are associated with the Women's March are very much associated with this movement. A lot of the groups that were originally associated with Black Lives Matter were very active in this campus movement. Obviously, Antifa was the far edge wing of this movement that was actually promoting violence at a lot of these speeches. But the generalized attempt to shut down speeches by pressuring administrations, that's a lot of student groups that have been on campus since the time that I was on college campuses as a student myself, and they continue to push for the idea that these campuses should be conservative-free and should be complete safe spaces for people on the left. Not only because they think that conservatives are going to convince a lot of people, but also because they actually just think conservatives are evil. Right? I think that they really think that people like me are there to do them harm. And when I show up and it turns out that I'm a relatively non-threatening character and I've never really beaten anyone up in my life for several reasons that you can imagine, then, you know, that's the impact.
Yeah, well, again, you don't look too threatening, but ideas are threatening to these people. Ben, thanks so much.